group called Residents Action on Filed Fracking. My sister Julie and Bob Dennett are also here from the Filed. We've come down every weekend to support Balcombe for the last 4 weeks. And the reason we've done this is we've spent the last 2.5 years as a community trying to, I'm sorry, I can't see everybody back.
Maybe you want to stand up together.
Got really rude, sorry. We spent the last 2.5 years as a community dealing and doing what we call doing business with cuadrilla in our town. And it's so much more than just getting a fracking rig. You know, there's the underhanded way they operate that makes you exceptionally uncomfortable as a community to have them as someone proposing to do business with you without even thinking about what the act of fracking involves. The way the company behaves is very unacceptable. You know, they go in and they try to sponsor things and win over sectors of the community. They have public meetings, but they don't publicize them well. When you attend, they don't have the answers to the key questions you ask. So consequently, it became down to groups like ours and others to spring up and start our own form of education, because we weren't getting it and the answers we needed from any of the people we were told would help us. So we started off not as an anti-fracking group, we're Residents Action On. Everybody was content to say, hang on, let's look into this very carefully and see actually what it's all about. So we did, and within no time at all, we would be absolutely anti if you could change our name now. And the way that we've tackled it is the way that a legal person who does not wish to spend time in prison does in what they think is a democracy. We've approached our councillors, we've approached our MPs, we've objected to every single planning permission, we have petitioned, we've done just everything we can. We hold our own public meetings, which are just to give communities information about the actual process of fracking. We don't need to make a big fuss about those. Really all you need to do at a public meeting to inform people is say, this is the process, this is how shale gas is extracted using fracking. Can you see any risks? At which point, everybody with more than a couple of brain cells goes, well, yeah, obviously, what a silly idea. Why on earth would we even be considering this? And yet, we're not winning. We are not winning doing this legally in our democracy, and we're not being defended. So when we saw, we've spoken anyway, Frack Free Sussex, all of the groups throughout the country, share resources and help and support on the bad days, and but we've not got anywhere. So now when we came to Balcombe and we looked and we thought, maybe every town needs to do a Balcombe. You know, you need this visibility, because we don't get it from the media, we don't get it any help. So, you know, and the media is astounding. We went in to see our own editor of the Gazette in our town in Blackpool, and we took him in swathes of newspapers and headlines, every one of them, jobs for Blackpool and great news for the Fylde Coast, frackings for the Fylde Coast, all this positivity. And there was ours, this lonely little press release that got published with 3 paragraphs, and it had Francis Egan's head on it. The head of cuadrilla had his head on our press release, so we don't get anywhere with that either. So I'd love to come and bring you a happy story that if you fight hard enough, you'll win at stopping this. But you know, in the 2.5 years since the group started up there, we've only been part of it for 18 months, but nothing. We can't move it. We have insisted, and it has slowed them, that they do environmental impact assessments at every site, and they had to concede to that. And they conceded because the community called for it, because we could convince people to say, why wouldn't they care what the environmental impact is? So now they're doing those. Unfortunately, although that sounds good and it's slowed them down a bit, they choose the criteria for the impact assessment. So they don't particularly want to look at noise or air or other things. So they then get to choose that. So it's an astounding world where when we ask the Environmental Agency, how many times have you come down to the site to see what's going on? We have 4 drill sites. One caused the earthquakes and had to close. The other one got a piece of machinery stuck in it and that had to close too. And when we asked the Environmental Agency, will you come down and check the site? They said, what would be the point? We can't see underground. So we're running out of options. We have an MP championing this. His name is David Morris, and he's from Morecambe. And he said that he thinks it's a great idea because it will bring jobs and all the things that they say it will bring. But when I asked him what he thought the process of fracking was, this is how he described it. I'm not sure how many of you know what the process is. I'm sure some of us have a basic understanding. His description of how fracking operates is this. Don't be silly. Nothing gets left behind. It's like a telephone box, goes on top of a field. A truck comes, it extracts the gas, it goes away, they put it all back to how it was. You never knew they'd been. I was gobsmacked and astounded and asked him, what about all of the liquid that stays underground? Because when you frack, you put down about 4 Olympic-sized swimming pools of water, chemicals and sand. And less than 2 of those will come back with the gas. The rest is under there for however long it takes to seep into wherever it's going to go. Removing that liquid from the water table and putting it in with all those chemicals underground to seep up into future grandchildren's generations perhaps, or sooner depending on what it finds. So yeah, so it's not gone well. But it's the trust thing as well. When Cuadrilla caused the earthquake in Blackpool in 2011, in April, wasn't it? Was it April 1st?
1st of April.
1st of April. They didn't admit it was their fault, obviously. They liked the idea that we might blame all sorts of other things. So they continued to frack into the fault line with this slick water. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but you know, a fault line is bad enough. But when you've been pumping for 6 months slick water, that chemical water that makes it slippery into it, we have no idea the consequences on our horizon. We don't know what's coming next because they've now closed this well. Rather than fill it with cement, they've sealed it 50 centimetres above ground with cement. And we just don't know, and we cannot get the answers. So thank you for all being here, and we really need your help.